Devlin, Untamed.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The Platform.
Welcome to the podcast, people. Martin Devlin, Lachlan War, iOS, It's Only Sport. That's the name of our radio show every day, 1 till 4 on the Platform. What is the Platform? It's an app you download. It's 9 hours of independent free media in New Zealand every day. If you can't listen to it live, well, we thank you for joining us here on this podcast, The Highlights Package. This is the only independent daily radio sports show in New Zealand. Talking today, topics including 2 brand new franchise sides to play in the Australian leagues, A-League and NRL. One got formally named today, the other officially announced. David Moffett behind the South Island Kia. Another bid to get another New Zealand side in the NRL, and the Auckland A-League side named itself. We continue our build-up to the Warriors playing the Storm. Richie Barnett on the show today. A couple of calls already this week about putting RTS at fullback. Well, that's a position he knows a hell of a lot about, so his thoughts on that. As well as Costo's corner, Jason calling it every single game of the NRL round. Who's going to win and why? Other topics to discuss. Broncos home Souths tonight. What a blockbuster that, mate. Who doesn't love Thursday night league? Eddie Jones, mate, reckons that the Brave Blossoms, the Japanese, are going to be a top 4 rugby side. You've got to love them. Joey Manu is off to Japan. For cultural reasons, he wants to become an All... really? Or is he just going there for the cash and he's going to go back to the NRL? Scott Barrett's finger. Could that be the death knell on the Crusaders season? Champions League draw. Who do you want to play who now in the last 8? So much more to deal with. We begin the show the same way every single day. Tablets in hand, I say, gather my flock. It is time for a sermon. Is there room for a Christchurch-based NRL side? Let's go to the mountaintop.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
The South Island Kia. Remember the name. NRL expansion. A brand new franchise side to be based in Christchurch has been launched today with David Moffett, the main man behind the bid. Moffett has a brilliant resume in sports administration. Indeed, he's a former CEO of the NRL, also New Zealand Rugby. He ran Sport England, just a couple on his CV. He's a sharp operator and a really good dude. One of the most outspoken critics of rugby, especially the bumbling, fumbling, stumbling New Zealand administration over recent times. He's also a real go-getter. He gets stuff done. He ain't no faffer, no fluffer, no fanny around KPI woke box ticker. So this will be a serious bid with a great structure and sound backers. But is the NRL really ready for another New Zealand side? Is New Zealand really big enough to support 2 competing teams in the NRL? Well, not according to Andrew Webster, the Warriors coach, who just a couple of weeks ago said the Warriors need to become giants over a long period of time, similar to what the Broncos have done. Until we have that sustained success, I think the whole country is enjoying getting around just one team at the moment. And he does have a point. And the Warriors definitely do not want to dilute or separate their support. They sold out a preseason game versus the Tigers in Christchurch just weeks ago, remember. A bit like the Phoenix are reticent about the idea of a brand new A-League side starting up in Auckland. Suddenly your support base is under threat. Suddenly you could see that nationwide the whole thing becomes a North versus South Island rivalry and you lose half your fan base. But imagine that rivalry really kicking in. Auckland Warriors versus Canterbury Kia. Straight away, you've got the potential of developing something very real. The reality is the NRL will extend, but from what we're reading, from what we're hearing, first cab off the rank looks to be a team based in PNG. After that, they're going to add a couple more, and the Kia goes up against the North Sydney Bears, a couple of other Sydney sides, Perth, and another Christchurch bid from a different consortium, and that is called the Bulls. So good luck, I say, to everyone involved. 2 New Zealand NRL teams. For some, it's wishful thinking. For David Moffett, an achievable dream.
Devlin.
What do you want? We want information. Information. You won't get it.
The Platform.
The sports news headlines, Lachlan.
What to start with?
Well, you say that every day, but I know that you know.
What do you think I'm starting with?
Franchise. Brand new.
No.
Southern Kia.
Well, you've just talked about it, so there's no point in me talking about it again.
In that case, Chapman's League.
No, that's not leading my news.
Okay, all right.
Cricket Awards.
Ah, that's right. Okay, right.
Well, it's a chance to celebrate a brilliant young man.
Okay, all right. I understand.
That man being Rachin Ravindra.
Come on down, son. Yay!
Black Cap's batting star. He can also bowl a few balls pretty damn well. He's kept a breakout year with the national team, becoming the youngest recipient of the Sir Richard Hadley Medal at the NZ Cricket Awards. Meanwhile, White Ferns all-rounder Millie Kerr. Now, it's Amelia Kerr, and now everyone just calls her Millie Kerr, which really actually annoys me.
And why?
I don't know. Just
mates,
call her
mate.
Amelia. Are we all mates? I've never talked to... Well, I've interviewed her before, but I don't know. Amelia Kerr
Amelia
has swept the Women's International Awards over all three formats, as well as the Player of the Year in the domestic Super Smash T20 competition. The Warriors have been handed mixed
when
news.
she was playing, when she could be bothered. Let's be honest about it.
Be nice.
Okay, I'm just saying the truth, mate.
The Warriors have been handed mixed news on the injury front ahead of their tough road trip to play the Melbourne Storm. That's on Saturday. This is what Coach Andrew Webster had to say in regard to Kurt Capewell and Wade Egan, who are under a bit of an injury cloud. Kurt's not injured. He trained today being yesterday, by the way. Wade, obviously, everyone saw him go off. He ran on the sideline today. We don't train tomorrow being today. We'll do captain's run before we leave. We'll give him every chance up until kickoff. We're really happy it's not a long-term injury. It's just whether he can get range in his elbow, whatever that means. Then he can go. Now, by that, I would guess that Wade Egan won't be playing this weekend.
Sounds it, doesn't it? And he's not going to reveal who's going to be his replacement, apparently just before kickoff, because he doesn't want the other team to prepare for it. But I'd say that they're preparing now, not for waiting. He did say
Freddie Lussick, probably.
He did say also that if he can run and pass, he can play. But that elbow thing suggests to me that he can't pass
I'd say it'll be Freddie Lussick starting, maybe with Chanel. I don't know if Chanel was named on the wider 22-man side on Tuesday. I'm not too sure about that. Anyway, I can check that in a sec. New Japan rugby coach Eddie Jones aims
mate,
to make his side one of the best 4 teams in the world.
Go on.
He said, because we became one of the best 8 way back in 2019 and, with that victory over the Springboks in 2015, there's no reason why we can't be top 4. Did that go to plan with the Wallabies last year? Champions League this morning. One result expected. One result a bit of a surprise. Dortmund beating PSV 2-0 at home. They win 3-1 in aggregate. I think everyone expected that. Jadon Sancho scoring in the 3rd minute. Your favourite. What a player he is, Jadon Sancho. He should actually, you know what he should do? He's done really well in Germany. If I'm a Premier League club, I'm trying to sign this guy. I think he could do really well in the Premier League. What do you reckon, Martin?
Good luck with that. Good luck with that, yeah.
He may not like the coach.
Why not? No, I think
like the coach.
No, I think his game will translate really well.
He bullied me on Instagram. I won't train anymore.
Atletico
What a twat.
Atletico Madrid beating Inter Milan 2-1. 3-2 on penalties, excuse me. The match finished 2-1, 2-all on aggregate. Atletico winning 3-2 on penalties. As I say, if the away goals rule was still in play, then Inter would have won because they had one away goal. It's not, though, is it?
But auntie with your uncle should have a moustache, mate.
What?
If your auntie was your uncle should have a moustache, the away goals, and it's not there. It's irrelevant.
Premier League match on this morning that I didn't even know about until it finished. Bournemouth beating Luton 4-3. Luton were up 3-0 at half-time.
Okay. How many times in the Premier League has a side been down 3-0 at half-time and won?
Okay, let me answer this. Okay. Have any happened in the last 5 or 6 years?
One of them, I think. It's only happened 2 other times.
So it's happened 3 times or twice?
Three
times
times
in total, including today's game. Someone down 3-0 came back to win 4-3. I don't know.
Okay, keep thinking about it. Don't Google it. I'll ask you again in another hour. Answers at 5050, ladies and gentlemen.
Does my team
Just
involved
shout
in any
it
of
out.
them?
Not just, there's no, you can't phone a friend on this, Lachlan. You have to use your brain.
What if they were down 3-0 but came back to draw 4-all?
I said win the game.
I know that Liverpool would up 3-1 in the
Whatever, mate.
game.
I'll tell you what, you're not answering the question, okay? Clock's ticking.
Anyway. Some live sport on today.
It's going to bug him, isn't it?
It is going to bug me.
Going to bug him now, isn't it?
Ryan Fox tees off at 2:19
Go on,
a.m. to be exact at the Players' Championship at TPC Sawgrass in Florida. NRL on tonight. My Brisbane Broncos at home to the South Sydney Rabbitohs, kicking off at 10 p.m. That's an easy one.
That's an 0-2
That's an easy
Broncos,
one.
mate.
That's a gimme. Come on, that's an absolute gimme. That's an absolute gimme.
Not making the 8.
Actually, this happened last night, so it's not exactly live sport. It's a result, I guess. But the NBL, Australian NBL semi-finals series both concluded last night. Melbourne United beating the Hawks 100-94 in their Game 3, deciding Game 3. So Melbourne United, the top seed, are in the finals. The Perth Wildcats lost to the Jack Jumpers. So
Yeah,
the Jack Jumpers were the away team. So they go through to the finals series against Melbourne. Perth are knocked out.
Devlin.
Oh my goodness me!
The platform.
The South Island Kia, not the first South Island bid to get a team from Te Waiponamu into the NRL. The Christchurch Bulls has already been floated. Well, now David Moffett, he got a pedigree. Former CEO of the NRL, former CEO of New Zealand Rugby. Here's behind this brand new bid, the South Island Kia. He can explain it all to us. David, congratulations. Your bid is in, the South Island Kia. Tell us about it.
Well, it started in 2012, really, when, I had a bit of a discussion with Frank Endicott and a couple of other people about launching a bid for the South Island, centred in Christchurch. And at the time, even though I knew the guys there at the NRL very well, David Gallup in particular, they weren't interested in expansion then, and they weren't interested in the South Island. So I've got a bit of history in that, and given a lot of the comments that Peter V'landys has been making about expansion and about the South Island and Christchurch, I thought that I would assemble a group of really knowledgeable people, and when they put the bids out, we will be ready to go for an expansion team in the South Island.
Is there room for two Christchurch bids here, because you are up against another one?
Mate, competition's always a good thing, isn't it? The only thing that needs to happen is that a bid needs to be won for Christchurch, representing the whole of the South Island. So I don't mind competition, and it'll ensure that the best bid will be chosen by the NRL, because they are the organisation that will choose the bidder.
How important is it that a second New Zealand team gets established, regardless of whether it's in Christchurch or the South Island? Because Wellington want to put a bid in as well. Is it more important that we just get a second team, or does it have to be based in Christchurch?
Look, I think it's important that New Zealand gets a second team, but our bid will make it absolutely almost impossible for the NRL to actually, look at anywhere else, because we're going to mount a very professional bid, and it's going to be compelling for the South Island. And there's as we saw from the sellout of the Warriors playing against the Tigers in a pre-season game, it was a sellout, and there's an appetite for it here, because there are a lot of people that are fans of rugby league, but also fans of rugby and rugby league. And we believe that is going. And also the other thing too is we've got a fantastic stadium being built here, which I know will excite the NRL. And of course the biggest, well, not the biggest, but one of the biggest things for me is that we've got instant competition with Auckland. Auckland versus Canterbury. We'll be sticking it to them. So their coach came out the other day and said, there's not enough room for another team in New Zealand. Well, when we win the bid, I'll most likely offer him a job, because he's a good coach. But we're coming, and I would think that an opening game for the stadium between the Kia and the Warriors would be phenomenal, mate. We'd sell it out now if we were in the position to be able to do that, because of the rivalry, and it'll be like State of Origin.
David Moffett, South Island Kia. This is another bid for another New Zealand team in the NRL. Do you have any relationship at all with Peter V'landys, anyone there at the top echelon of the NRL at the moment, given the fact that you were the CEO in a former life?
Well, no, I've never met Peter, and I'm looking forward to meeting him as soon as we can set up a meeting. But I do know Andrew Abdo, and have spoken to him, not about this, but we now that it's out there, we'll be arranging meetings as soon as we can, just to let them know that we're around, that we're going to be ready. I think we'll be ready by 2026, if that's when they're going to open bids. There is a view that Papua New Guinea's got the inside rail because of support from the Australian and American governments, and that's fine. But we believe that whenever that the league expands, that we will also be ready to to be involved in another license, whenever that may be, and from 2026. So we're very bullish. We've already got some partners lined up, which is very exciting. And I sent you a 6-page deck, which I think demonstrates a professionalism that we have around this. And, I'm looking forward to it. The other thing, of course, that we are proposing, which I actually proposed for New Zealand Rugby before they went and signed off the Silver Lake deal, is that there will be fan ownership of the care. I mean, I am absolutely passionate about involving the fans, and whether it's by way of a cooperative, and we have a fantastic lady, Ros Henry, who's going to be advising us on that. She's obviously got a full-time job, but she's in our corner, and either that or by way of share ownership. But one way or another, the fans are going to have real skin in the game, and there isn't another team in the NRL at the moment where the fans have either ownership or part ownership of the teams. And that's going to be something completely new, something I've been working on for well over 12 months. And now there's an opportunity to put it into practice.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. What do you think about that?
We need to talk.
Sorry.
We need to talk.
Sorry, I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it, Lachlan.
Next!
Your favourite game is called what?
What is more chance of happening?
Say it with vigour and gusto and
What
enthusiasm.
is more chance of happening?
I'm going to give you 2 scenarios, Lachlan. You're going to tell me out of the 2 which is more chance of happening.
Next!
New Zealand will have another team in the NRL within the next 2 years or 2 seasons, or that team will be based in Wellington and not the South Island. Which of those 2 is more chance?
Wait, what's what's got more chance of happening? There being a second New Zealand-based NRL team within 2 years?
Yes.
Or
that team is not from the South Island. That team is based in Wellington, because Wellington have also
Wellington. There's more chance that it happens. There's no way we get a second team within the next 2 years. There's no way that happens.
You don't think so?
Nope. I don't think so.
Next!
What is more chance happening, Lachlan? You're proven wrong.
I'll say just quickly, I'll tell you why. The reason is because there's a massive push for a PNG team.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah.
And also for a second team, there's a big, I don't know how to describe it properly, but I guess a swell of momentum around the North Sydney Bears returning to the NRL.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that'll happen, from things that I've read and watched, that's probably going to happen with the merging of, say, someone in Perth, or maybe they merge with the old, I don't know, Newton Jets, I don't know, something like that. But they merge with someone to make them viable to survive, because obviously they didn't. The what are they called? The North. Well,
they didn't want to merge with Manly, mate. Yeah. They didn't want to merge, and that was I was pleased with that at the time that they didn't. But that's the next one. New Zealand's going to have another team in the NRL within 2 years, or that team is based in Papua New Guinea. What is more chance
team is based in Papua New Guinea.
Okay, why do they want a team out of Papua New Guinea?
I don't know. Is it to kind of get a bit more of a foothold in the Pacific Islands? Well, that's not even in the Pacific Islands.
No, well, there is a political element to this. There is a paranoia amongst those in power in Canberra and the United States, and they're very closely aligned, that China is moving into the Pacific and starting to donate money and give money.
They did for the Solomon Islands recently,
They did it for the Solomons, that's right. And the Papua New Guinea is right beside there. They're doing it for Fiji. They're doing it for Cook Island. They're doing it for everywhere. They're starting to invest in infrastructure. They're starting to hand out money. They're starting to do development projects and that. And the US and Australia are starting to get very nervous about it. And so there's a political element attached to this. What is more chance of happening? New Zealand will have another team in the NRL. Let me extend that. Within the next 3 seasons, Lachlan, or the Rabbits beat the Broncos tonight. What is more chance of happening? 3 years. Okay, let's just think rationally and sensibly about this. Okay, there are 17 teams in the NRL at the moment. What is the optimum number? Is it 20? Is it 18? It's got to be an even number, isn't it, to me? Doesn't make sense to have an odd number. Should be an even number so that every team plays every round, right?
Yeah.
So if that's the case, I reckon they're looking more towards 20 as the ultimate. Is that too many? That's the same as the Premier League.
Too many.
You think it's too many?
18 would be the optimum level. Well, it depends because they've talked for a while about having one in Perth, which I think is risky just based on the time difference and the travel factor, because it's a bigger trip to Perth than it is to New Zealand from the east coast of Australia.
See, this is where they start making the mistakes. I think, look, you've got a league stronghold in North Sydney, right? You've got a league stronghold in Newtown. You've got a potential here in the South Island where obviously 17,000 fans turned up for a pre-season game for the Warriors. Why go all the way to Perth where it didn't work the last time you did it? This to me is like trying to put a rugby team in Melbourne. Why wouldn't you go where the strongholds are? If you start spreading it too thin, that's when all of a sudden this thing starts cracking around the edges like it did with the Super League thing.
Yeah. And I think the NRL can get into the trap of doing what Super Rugby did, where you're doing too much to something that doesn't need fixing.
It doesn't need fixing. All right. The other thing is that quite clearly the Rabbits are going to beat the Broncos tonight.
Next!
Goes without.
No. I'll say this though. I mean, there's on
Listen to the nervousness in
on
his voice,
Bet365, the buddies are paying $3.10, which is good value to be fair.
Oh, really? It's good value, is it? Really?
You're nasty today.
I'm not nasty today. I'm just pricking the bear because you are nervous. Your Broncos
Of course,
side,
I'm nervous every week.
Your Broncos
I'm
side-
nervous every
How many
week.
points did you score last time out against the Roosters?
10.
10. Oh, the much vaunted Broncos attack with Walshy, and you scored 10 miserable points, mate.
The Warriors win? Did the Warriors win?
We aren't the Broncos, remember?
Did the Warriors win? Did the Warriors win? And were you playing at home or on the road? And were you playing a team as good as the Roosters? No. So of all the people to be talking, you better sit in your seat, son.
A couple of text messages in. Martin, I'm in the South Island. I'll change the Kia. They've won just as many NRL championships as the Warriors. Oh, that's nasty, Ben. I'm a builder in Christchurch. Good on you, mate. I've asked a good few blue-collar guys if they'd switch, and I'd say 8 out of 10 would. Never underestimate the North versus South rivalry. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much for that, sir. Where's your building site at the moment? Let's give you a bit of a plug. Afternoon, lads. If the South Island got an NRL team, I'd drop the Warriors faster than a teenager drops a porno mag as mum knocks on the door. Not because I don't love the Warriors, but because it brings more game to New Zealand. I love all of those. Let's continue playing.
Next!
What is more chance happening? Lachlan, the New Zealand have another team in the NRL. Let's make it within 3 years. Or the Wawas go to Melbourne and...
No, they're not winning this weekend. The Warriors are not winning this weekend.
Yeah.
What is the Warriors' record over Melbourne? So obviously in 2008 won that famous qualifying final, the first week of the final. Now the 8th seed, Melbourne the 1 seed, right? 2011 they beat them to make the grand final, right?
Just roll out statistics,
Now,
meaningless statistics.
I went to a Warriors Melbourne game in 2013 and the Warriors won at Mount Smart.
Thank
Good
you.
win, I remember that really well.
Right.
And then 2014, I'm pretty sure they beat Melbourne. They might have drawn on Anzac Day, and then in 2015 they won or drew as well. Since then, the Warriors have not beaten Melbourne.
Okay, apart from that.
So all of 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20,
Make your point.
1, 2,
Make a
3.
point. Make your
That
point,
is
mate.
8 seasons
Make
they
your
haven't
point, mate.
beaten Melbourne.
That's right. So Melbourne will just be shaken like a dog doing raisins. They'll be that nervous about losing this game, won't they? Because
Stop it. How many points did Melbourne put on the Warriors 2 years ago on Anzac Day?
80, 90, 50, 70.
70.
All right. Ethan de Grott, the big boy, front row for the Highlanders and the All Blacks. 22 games the All Blacks played at the World Cup last year. Highlanders started the season well. A great win last weekend against the Waratahs. 5 wins in the competition last year. And they're already in the top 4 right now, but face probably their biggest test so far this season against a Brumby side. Many of us expected to be the top-ranking Aussie team. That match is on Saturday afternoon. Ethan de Grott joined us on the program today. How good do you think you can get? Do you want to be the very best in your position in the world?
Yeah, I'd like to be world leading. That's definitely a goal of mine. Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that too. Because I think if you don't want to be, why the hell are you playing?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the All Black standard. Everyone's striving for that. Yeah, it's just keeping those All Black standards and bringing them back into the Highlanders. And so if I do get selected again, I can back where I'm meant to be.
Ethan de Grott is with us, 22 games for the All Blacks. I don't know whether you can remember or not, but this was after the Ireland quarter-final, and we're at the press conference at the hotel, and the referee was pinging all the time during that game, and I asked you what he was pinging about, and he said, I don't know, he didn't say anything. Mate, he didn't say anything. Mate, I asked Bowden Barrett a couple of weeks ago about the same thing. How much does it grate? Do you ever get over playing in a final like that and not winning that final?
I'm over it now because I know that if I work hard enough, I'll be there to have another crack in another 4 years. But
good call.
It definitely took a while to get over that one. Yeah, I've watched the game. Yeah, a lot. I'd hate to know how many times I've fully watched it, but she was tough, to be honest. And I just felt for especially the guys where it was their last crack. You know, guys like Whitelock, Aaron Smith, those, and then our coaching group and all our old staff that have moved on. So it was tough seeing their last sort of day or week. But yeah, I'm definitely over the loss and just ready to have another crack at the South Africans next time we play them.
When you're watching the game again, what do you specifically look for?
In terms of my just review on my role, or as in just like what happened?
Yeah, both. Yeah.
For myself, just week to week, I'm looking at my scrums. I'm looking at how I'm moving off the ground, my involvements, whether they're positive or negative. Positive tackles, negative tackles, or I'm reviewing how I'm playing. I'm just reviewing how I've played. But in terms of that final, I've looked at every facet of it. On refs, the calls we could have made. I'm sure everyone's looked at some of the calls that got made. But we definitely had opportunities to win that game. And if we had potentially 15 men on that field, I reckon we left a lot out there. We had some strikes and we had to resort to just a 5-man line-out because we were missing our 7. So, we had some strikes that would have been awesome to open them up and move the big forwards around the field. But what could have been, it's just what-ifs at the moment.
That's it. Crazy to think that for 55... Sorry, mate, sorry. But I was just thinking crazy to think...
No, you're all good.
Crazy to think for 55 minutes we outscored them 8-3 with 14 men. That to me is the biggest frustration because I just thought you were heroic and courageous for that 55 minutes, all of yous.
Yeah. It didn't feel like we were under the pump out there, to be honest. Just all you had to do was look around and you could just see we're still on. And that was where our other leaders, our older guys in the team, I reckon, really stepped up. Guys like Artie and Whitelock, Nuggy,
Brody as well, I bet.
Yeah, Guzzler, all of those guys are awesome, and she was a tough one. I don't know what more to say about that final.
No, you're so proud of you, mate. I mean, look, as an All Black fan, all I wanted to see was what I saw in the second half. I just wanted us to stand up toe to toe, and that's exactly what we did. And in the end of it, there's a hell lot of circumstances happen, and that's what sport does to you sometimes. I know it's the oldest cliche, but that's just the truth, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just the way she goes.
Can I ask you a couple more questions? I just want to ask you, so as a player, because there's just so much crap spoken about Ian Foster, and especially in people in my profession who I don't think have any understanding at all about what he gave to you as players. And every time I was around the environment, I just like observing people, and I just saw a lot of respect from all of you guys towards the coaching staff. So he's obviously delivering something to you that perhaps his critics don't quite get. Could you explain that to us?
Yeah, well, I think I've got a lot of respect for Fozzie. He's not only a great coach, he's a great man. He's got a lot of respect. He's been around a long time. I think if you've watched that doco, we basically went out to go and fight for him when we bet the Springboks in Ellis Park. That was for him, to keep him on. Everyone wanted him gone, but no one really knows what's going on behind the scenes. There's other things happening, but Fozzie's a great coach, and a great man. And the way he fronted every day with a smile on his face, even though everyone else was, throwing daggers in his back, everything he done was for the team. And I've got a lot of respect for Foz. He's a great man.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full.
The Tight Five.
5 separate sporting topics, Lachlan, roughly a minute or so on each. And when the bell goes ding, we move on to the next one. Joey Manu to Japan. Now, I've read all the cliches about how he wants to be an All Black, and he just has always been keen to immerse himself into Japanese culture. Or is this just a money grab and he's going back to the NRL in a year or two?
Eddie Jones, mate. Are you getting sick, Eddie Jones, mate? You love him? You love him?
Yep.
Champions League draw, 8 teams to go. Who do you want to play who from now on? Scott Barrett's finger. Is this the Crusaders' season? This match against the Hurricanes. Is this their season? Married at First Sight, you were watching last night with your mother and your sister. Update us, please. Ravindra wins the Sir Richard Hadley Award and Amelia Kerr wins the Debbie Hockley Awards. Cricket. Let's kick it off with that. Congratulations to all who got a gong and kicked their heels up last night at the Cricket Awards. Interesting to me that Ravindra didn't win any of the individual awards, but he won the overall award. He didn't win Batman, he didn't win Bowler, he didn't win Test Player, But I think his impact at the One Day World Cup is probably what convinced everyone who votes for this to give him that.
Yeah, agreed.
Because he was outstanding, wasn't he?
Outstanding. Was it 4th highest run scorer? He had the most runs for a debutant at the World Cup ever, which he passed the feats of Sachin Tendulkar.
Full stop at the end of that sentence. I'm voting for that guy.
Yep.
I'm voting for that. Sorry, he did something that Sachin hasn't done. I'm voting for that guy.
And he's continued it to an extent. Looked very. Got 200. Did he get 200 against South Africa?
Against the Arps, yeah.
He did. I mean, it was a G10, but I mean, if you get a double ton in cricket, regardless of who it's against, you're doing bloody well.
He's the future.
He had a very good second innings against Aussie in Christchurch as well.
He dropped that catch. Look, he's a young man. He's going to make a few mistakes.
Yep.
But look, I just think he's a revelation for New Zealand cricket. Everything about him. Great personality. Obviously, super talented kid. And he's got an IPL contract. So more power to him. And look, I mean, who else but Amelia Kerr? I mean, Amelia Kerr. I mean, maybe Sophie Devine picked up a couple of votes, but it's Amelia Kerr. Joey Manu to Japan. So, Swahili has signed a contract for rugby, the Wallabies.
Well, reports earlier this week that they're trying to backfoot that deal and the Roosters are doing their best to try and keep him.
Well, obviously now, especially, because Joey Manu, when he played in Vegas against you lot, was the best player on the field.
He was.
He is a real star. I
thought Spencer Leniu had a pretty good game, didn't he?
Up until a point. We've got to talk about that next.
Up until the name calling.
But, I think, this is a real shock to me, this news, and also it must be to the NRL, not losing him to Super Rugby. Now, here's a guy that could have obviously chosen to play Super Rugby, but he's gone to Japan. He's taken the easy money. He must be getting paid an absolute god fortune to go to Japan. He's linking up with Steve Hansen at Toyota Verblitz. Look, at second division rugby. Don't even start me on this. I saw a headline the other day. Adi Savia, remarkable, scores 4 tries in Japanese club rugby game. Really? Why wasn't it 14?
If a loose forward scoring 4 tries, that's like the Harlem Globetrotters. Come on.
So, do you think that this is a permanent switch to rugby, or this is just him taking a cash grab and coming back to the NRL?
Oh, I don't know if it's permanent, but this is very similar to another man who did this 4 years ago. Did he announce it 4 years ago? Did it 3 years ago? Roger Tuivasa-Sheck did the same thing.
Okay.
An outside back in the NRL who wants to make it big in rugby and times it for the next World Cup. Roger did that for the 2023 World Cup, didn't work out, and now Joey Manu's doing it for 2027. So it's not the thing is he's been linked with a move to rugby for a couple of years now, Joey Manu, and he's always kind of talked about wanting to play for the All Blacks. So it's not a surprise. I actually think it's quite good that he's going to Japan, because I think if he played Super Rugby and played in New Zealand and he was right in the view of the coaches and whatnot, if he's having a couple of off games, it'll be hard for him to get into the team.
If he's playing for an Aussie side that gets under the pump and getting beaten by the New Zealand sides every week.
Sort of flies under he gets lost in the smoke of the losing and whatnot. So
I
if
always
he's
look
in
at Israel
Japan,
Folau and thought you never played as well as you did when you play in league, when you play in rugby. I don't care what anyone says. You just never did.
But with Joey Manu, if he's playing over in Japan, a similar...
Oh, he's going to monster it over
well,
there,
yeah,
mate.
but
He's going to be
it's
scoring
similar
9
to
tries
Bowden Barrett, where Barrett is playing over there, for example, or Sam Kanerati, where they're looking good, and it's kind of hard to leave them out of the All Blacks because on the surface they're looking good. So Joey Manu's going to play some damn good rugby and probably get his way into the All Blacks quicker than if he was to play Super Rugby for a New Zealand franchise, and it didn't quite work.
Here we go. Here's my advice for everyone connected to the Roosters or everyone who's going into bat for Spencer Leniu at the moment. Shut it.
Yeah.
Button it. Stop it. You aren't helping. And whether this is the Roosters coach or it's another prop, I think it was a Manly prop, went into bat from and all of that. Leave it out. It's done. He's got his 8 weeks. There is nothing you can offer or say to this that is going to change anything about this apart from keeping his name in headlines.
Yeah,
okay?
agreed.
He's already explained and apologised that he's not a racist guy, that he says this, whether you believe it or not or accept it or whatever, the way he uttered that expression was delivered as a racial insult. That's the truth. He didn't say F off, you monkey, for any other reason than he was looking at Ezra Mam and he was saying that. So stop trying to rewrite this because it's not helping.
And also, I think it's very risky behaviour from Trent Robinson to come out and speak as if he's a motivational speaker or some oracle where he knows right from wrong and his morality is so untouchable that he's sitting there saying, well, this is the definition of racism. So if you guys are going to sit there and call him a racist, well, you need to look in the mirror or some stuff like that.
Look, it's not, I'm not calling him a racist. I'm saying he made a racial insult.
but
There is a difference.
As the coach of a rugby league team, you shouldn't be...
Just back off.
Yeah, don't dip your toe in that water.
There's no reason for you to get involved in this, Trent Robinson.
You're like a child who's never studied in calculus going into an exam and thinking you've got to get an A. Just don't even try it.
Champions League draw. 3 from Spain, 2 Krauts, 2 Poms, 1 French. Real Atletico Barca, Bayern Borussia, Man City Arsenal,
Borussia Dortmund.
PSG. Who do you want to play who in the quarterfinals? Now, as a Liverpool fan, I can already guess. You want Man City and Arsenal to play in the semi-finals, which means they get at least 4 more of these games each, which then impacts their ability to put the same side out for the Premier League games, right? Title chasing. Is that right?
Yeah.
I also want Man City to avoid Real until the final because I don't believe that any team that is left is capable of beating Man City over 2 legs. But I think there's a couple of teams there that could have a damn good crack at them in a one-off game, especially a side like Real with all that experience and a manager who knows how to play a Champions League final.
Couple of things. Yeah, you got to bang on. I want Man City and Arsenal both to play a niggly, nasty, tough team in the quarterfinals. So Man City gets someone like Bayern Munich or maybe Atletico, who can be tricky to break down. The Simeone Atletico sides. Similar thing with Arsenal. Get a team like that. Then they face each other in the semis. Punch each other, knock each other out or whatever, and whoever wins then goes into the final against Real Madrid.
Yeah. And whoever loses gutted and probably drops a Premier League game along
Just
the
quickly,
way.
I'll say this. Man City, by the numbers and seemingly by the eye test, and I'm jumping on top of Sam Lee, the Man City correspondent who we had on the show yesterday. I'm jumping on top of his breaking down of how the team's playing because I don't watch Man City enough, but they don't look as good this year. By the numbers and on the eye test, they're not as good this year.
No.
So if they're not as good, that means that they are more beatable than they were last year, which means that if Inter Milan can take them pretty much the whole game and then concede a late-ish goal and lose 1-0 in the final last season.
God, you're hopeful. This is hope talking.
Well, Real Madrid could probably beat them across.
This is hope talking.
This is the thing. I can't stand
Here
Man
we go.
City.
Now the truth comes out.
cannot
See,
stand them.
I'm
actually getting to the point.
I just want to get to this point.
I'm getting to the point where I hate them more than I hate you guys.
I just need to push that button. That's the button I want to push.
I hate Man City more than I hate Man United.
Bring the hate out.
I hate them both because they're Manchester clubs.
Bring the hate.
But seriously, if they win the league again and they win if they do the double, win the league and the Champions, they're going to get the FA Cup and do another blimmin' treble.
Here we go.
I'm done with football.
Them.
I'm done with football.
Hate them.
And Klopp's going as well.
Hate them.
Stuff it. I'm done with football.
Scott Barrett's finger. Is this the Crusaders' season? If the Crusaders lose tomorrow, home to the Hurricanes, they're 0-4. Is this their season? Oh, look, out of all the Crusaders players, where they are right now, as soon as I saw that story yesterday, I thought the one player they can't afford to lose, the one guy they can't afford to lose is that guy. He is their team. He was the guy last year who, the All Blacks can't play 5 games in a row. Well, he played every bloody game, didn't he? He is a workhorse. He is the absolute anchor in the All Blacks forward pack. He is single-handedly, I believe, could drag that franchise back up again, right, to winning. And he's not there. Now, I don't want anyone injured, but this is the greatest news for the Hurricanes, isn't it? That we go down there and we play that team right now, and he's not in it.
Yeah. Season over. Well, you can still make the finals at 9-4.
Well, everyone makes the finals because that's how Super Rugby works, mate. All the fat kids get a prize, don't they? All 12 teams make the finals.
Be nice.
It's true, mate.
Fat kids. You don't need to pick on the fat kids.
Okay.
Pick on the ugly kids. Pick on the ones whose genes are screwed up.
Well, I only say that because I tell you, I'm shocked. I mean, I'm an old man these days, obviously, and body bits fall and you get bits that you don't want and all of that kind of stuff. But I'm absolutely shocked. Every time I drive to work and I see school kids walking along the street and I see 12, 13, 14-year-olds with man boobs and big fat guts and things and think, how does this happen to you? I know how it happens to you because it's just a diet of KFC and McDonald's and Coca-Cola and everything else. It's true, mate. It's bloody true, isn't it?
Yeah,
I feel sorry for all of these kids. I think your bloody parents
it's
should
the
know
parents,
better.
especially if you're quite young.
They should know
your
better.
Parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and the fact you shouldn't be overweight and carrying that kind of weight when you're a teenager. We used to think, it was a gland problem when I was growing up as a kid. But they just, anyway, I don't know. What I want to talk about is I want to talk about Married at First Sight because Lockton watched an episode of Married at First Sight last night with his sister and his mother.
Yeah.
And apparently you were yelling at the TV.
Yeah, I was loving it. So I went around I hadn't actually seen any of my family for about 2.5, 3 weeks. I thought I'd go around and have a catch up. Got a takeaway, lovely fusion Thai takeaways.
Mum always pays, mate.
Mum picked it up.
Mum
like
always pays.
Whenever I always
You're
swing
a
by
grown
the
man,
end.
you never
Look,
pay.
I swing by the
Never,
end
ever
then
pay.
and pick up the takeaways
But
for
you
us,
never
and then
pay.
she puts the money in my account.
Always.
But I don't want her to. I tell her not to.
Tell her to put it into my account then, Lock.
No, you're fine. You don't need help. No, look, so Married at First Sight, I've seen 2 episodes. That was episode 24. I've seen episode 14 because I only watched it around at theirs, and now I won't lie, I'm hooked, so I'm going to watch it when I get home tonight. But it's just sensational television.
You know it's pre-scripted, mate. It's
no.
It's
I'm the one on the couch saying, well, that's not real, or that's scripted,
That's
or
not
whatnot.
real. Oh, he's the bad guy. He says things that offend people.
There's always a dickhead who says a word that offends people. That guy's name is
let me guess.
Jack, I think.
Let me guess. There's a woman who's having an affair with somebody else.
Yeah,
Really?
there's a woman who's gone back to
Let's do
her
the Simon
ex.
Barnett. Really?
She's gone back to her ex and she's
that
lied
just
to the
happened?
new husband.
Really?
The thing I love the most, though, is that when someone's betrayed or something goes wrong or there's an argument, the person who's on the receiving end gets so upset and feels so betrayed and horrified at what's going on.
It's pre-scripted.
Well, you've known them for a week. Like, don't sit there
It's
and
only
say...
going to help your OnlyFans page anyway.
Don't sit there and say, I can't believe my husband would do this to me. You didn't know who he was 2 weeks ago. Stop it. Don't sit there and act like there's a connection there. And if your husband decides he kind of gets on better with one of the other women there and wants to
Let him
start
root.
shaking
Let him
there.
root.
Agreed.
Richie Barnett, the name needs no introduction at all to Kiwi League fans. Over 100 games in the NRL, plus the legendary fullback that he was, wearing that black V jersey. Here's a stat for you. Only one team since 2012 has started an NRL season 0-2 and made the grand final. That was the Cowboys in 2015. The Warriors staring down those same stats if we can't go to Melbourne and beat the Storm on Saturday night. Prospects are what? Even without Munster, even without Big Nelson, this is still a hell of an ask for any Warriors side. Richie Barnett. Richie, we've had a good week to think about the Sharks result, the way that the team played, especially that second half. It doesn't get any easier in this comp, is it? Going to Melbourne Storm on Saturday night. So some of the changes, is there, in your mind, has Andrew Webster done the right thing by pretty much selecting exactly the same side and giving those guys the chance to go again and put it right?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's room to work on what they did. Obviously, the first half was outstanding, and unfortunately, the second half they were pulled apart. You know, a bit of composure, and those things can be sorted out pretty quickly. So there's no need to rejig the side. In actual fact, that the bench probably spent very little time on the paddock if you looked at that. So I'm just wondering how they're going to use that bench for this game around.
Yeah, look, hopefully Egan can play and hopefully he's fit and hopefully he plays the whole game. I thought that structure went when he also went off, which was really worrying.
Yeah, it was absolutely. You've got Capewell too with his rib injury, which is something you cannot really fix unless you needle it. But Egan is definitely the person that went missing and things started to fall apart a little with the structure. But they've got to turn it around quickly because they haven't got a good record down in the Storm, and their stoic defence last week was just incredible. So again, most of it's going to be on composure. Most of it's going to be limiting those errors that they had last week in the second half and then applying the pressure back on Storm because they certainly did that last week against Manly.
In terms of when a side just tends to just go into its shell in that second half, what do we need this coming weekend? Because obviously there's going to be a lot of pressure from Melbourne and there are going to be moments in the game where the Warriors are going to be really under it, back foot. They might be behind on the scoreboard. What do you want to see from the leaders of the team that we didn't see last week?
Yeah, I think it's just simple. I think it was said many times, simplify the game. Just control what you can control, your role in the team, and that's all you can do. Obviously, that building pressure on Sean's kicking game and then applying it and just being relentless, because you just see this season that's gone up a notch again. So there is limited time to take that foot off the pedal. You've just got to keep applying it, and hopefully that results in errors. So big game, and they've got Cameron Munster out. They've got a Sofa Solomona out. So there's many reasons why they're under the pump, but they always seem to deliver, and that's what the Warriors need to do as well.
I'm always fascinated when somebody like you with your experience says it's gone up a notch again. What have you noticed about round one?
Just the speed, the intensity and the speed which the game has played. I don't know how they can just keep playing in that vein. Obviously, they're conditioned differently nowadays, but certainly the speed is definitely... And limited time when the ball's out. So there's more time in play, which makes it even more difficult. So I think last year was finding another 5% in play by changing the rules, and this season I'm sure it's going to be based on how you keep the ball in play to weather the side down, and I personally think that if they had to use their bench maybe 10 minutes, I'm just concerned maybe they haven't got confidence in the bench players to come on. So I just wonder how that's going to be used this time around.
If they're shutting our playmakers down, which they did effectively with Sean, and then you've got Wade Egan, who came off as well. Did we use Roger effectively there? And I've spoken to Kempe on Monday, and he said that he thinks that Roger should be put back at fullback because there was a lot of attention around him every time he got the ball, and over the season we want to see much more of him with the ball in his hands and being able to take those options and play what's in front of him. So how do we get him? I suppose a long-winded question. How do we get him into the game the most effective?
And this is a good conversation because Tane at fullback was very jerky at the back. He has to adapt a style of game that works, and that comes from experience. He was bouncing around the back, and sometimes you just need someone to cart the ball up straight and hard, but he's only tiny, so he could be the weakness, to be honest, at the back. He could be manipulated. The pressure could be applied on him. He's easy to grab and hold up and then and get driven back. So there is definitely a question mark on Tane at fullback at the moment, and you're right. Roger wasn't used effectively. You can see the way that he is able to cut through the defence. But if they're going to use him more effectively, I reckon they need to take some shape and throw some shape his way and get him running the ball instead of him trying to break the tackle. So, it's an interesting proposition, I think, this weekend to see how Tane goes at fullback again, and I'm sure he's going to be under the pump.
Look, in some ways, I suppose, for Warriors fans, it's the last game you want because, we struggle so much against Melbourne, didn't beat them last year. There's a stat which says if you're 0-2, the last time that a team made the grand final starting 0-2 was the Cowboys in 2015. So statistically, whether that means anything, you're up against it as well. But on the other side of that, I think it's also a real statement game that, look, we saw enough in the first 14 minutes from the Warriors, and we know that they in the back 20, that how fit they were last year. Go to Melbourne, win this game, and all of a sudden the whole league sits up and takes notice.
Oh, exactly right. And that's the beauty of each week as it comes, isn't it? You can turn it around pretty quickly, and to get that monkey off the back in terms of playing them and winning over there will certainly move the confidence needle upwards. It is a big task, but that's what they should lean into anyway. That's what they have put in front of them from last season. I hope they don't rely that their season was exceptional, which they did. But this season is completely a different proposition. It's a different year, and you've got to really start to amp it up. And in actual fact, everyone has to lift their game by 5% in this game to get the result they need.
Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, former Wallaby fullback. Here's a breakfast host on Triple M in Brisbane. They do a man's show with a male audience. They absolutely rock. They get advertisers wanting to spend money. Go figure. Imagine that in New Zealand. Some broadcaster decides that they want to attract 40-year-old men. They'd be out of business tomorrow, Greg, just by even saying that out loud. I'm never going to hassle you again about the Wallabies. That is a promise to you, as long as you don't mention cricket in this conversation ever again.
Cricket, how good's cricket? What about that? How did that happen?
I don't know. Because we're pussies when it comes to playing. We just go into, we actually turn into little frightened mice when we play you guys.
Thank you. Well, now you know how we feel every second test match when we're up by 8 with 20 minutes to go, and somehow you guys manufacture. Mate, I was on that. My first test ever played against the All Blacks, all right?
Okay.
We were up 20-6. I think it was 20-6 or 18-6 at half time. And I think the only message we needed was plenty more of the same stuff, boys. You guys beat us. Yeah. That was cricket. That's how we do to you at cricket. What happens? You're gun shy. You can't handle it.
No, we have the opportunity, we just can't close. Do you know what I was screaming at the telly during that second test? Foley, kick it out, mate. Foley, kick it out, mate.
Thank you. And now you know. So don't take the piss out of me with the Wallabies, and you can understand. I thought you guys were going to win, and that's how I am when you go, oh, how do you reckon the Wallabies will go this year in the Bledisloe? Of course I'm going to go. We'll go well because we show snippets, we show little bits, but then when the whips are cracking, we give up.
Broncos versus Souths tonight, mate. Here's a stat for you. The last team to start 0-2 and make the final was the Cowboys in 2015, and they're the only team since 2012 that's done that. So whoever loses tonight is 0-2. Statistically, you're in trouble.
Oh, God, and both of them are real serious. It's being played in Brisbane tonight. They reckon they'll get 40,000
Oh, that's great.
on a Thursday night. They reckon they're going to get to Suncorp. We are insane here in Brisbane about our rugby league, and you go, oh, let's talk rugby. No, all anyone wants to talk here is rugby league, except for in the last couple of weeks. Of course, we'll get to the Reds, I'm sure, at some stage.
Sure we will.
Broncos will win this, mate. They're too fast. They're too quick, and that's why an old bloke like Corey Oates, that's been on the news here, he wants to tell Kevin Walters to get stuffed. And Kevin Walters says, mate, you're 29, you're not going to get any quicker. So, Broncos tonight. What else are we talking?
Reds are going great. And not just the Reds as well. So are the Tars. Waratah's got a big match this weekend.
Hey.
But, you know, that Reds win against the Chiefs, which you did last year in New Plymouth. So, you know, it's not a... And let's be honest, even in the finals match against the Chiefs in Hamilton, you guys stepped up. I've heard all kinds of things. Tim Horan was on the news saying that, this is the difference that Joe Schmidt has made. I haven't seen him kicking any goals yet. But
rubbish.
See, I mean, he's your mate, Tim Horan. He's saying that. But why the improvement, mate? Because there has been an improvement. It's visible.
Well, the improvement's Les Kiss. And I didn't think it was possible from a former rugby league winger to turn things around. But he's been in rugby now longer than he was in rugby union. Brad Thorne bred the attitude. Yeah, I'm sounding like Brad Thorne. Brad Thorne, he's bred the attitude into this current bunch. He weeded out all the dickheads because he had a no dickhead policy. He got them all to have proper haircuts. And now Les Kiss, what's happened? So he supplied the ingredients, and Les Kiss is like a pastry chef. He's put the bits and pieces on top. Mate, did you see, when you finish a game against the Chiefs, surviving 23 phases on your try line, you know you're playing for each other. And that's the bottom line.
That's actually such a good point to make, isn't it? Because ultimately, then you start developing combinations. And from those combinations, then all of a sudden you can start looking at, maybe those two might work together in this particular team. So, look, I've never been a believer, Greg, in this thing. Australian rugby needs to be strong. Stuff off Australian rugby. The All Blacks aren't strong. Let's get that sorted first. But can I say about the Super Rugby, I've really enjoyed the first 3 rounds, mate. I've loved it. I reckon the quality's been brilliant.
Thank you. And because there's been unpredictability for the first time for years. Actually, people are starting to watch it, not just because the Australian teams are going all right, but any games. The Drew are going well. Crusaders, good. There's actually games where you don't know the result of every game before it starts. That's the beauty of Super Rugby. It's turned the corner.
Can I mention a name, Fraser McWright, mate? I think he's been... why am I watching Australian teams? I don't bloody know, mate, but I thought that he actually looks as good as any.
Can I tell you, he's magnificent, Fraser. I've known him since he was 12 because he and my son, Best Mate, are really good mates. Went through school every year together, so I've watched him since he was a kid. Had him on our radio show. I'll give you a funny one. Had him on our radio show last week, and I told the other guys on our show, I said, this is the best player in Australia, la, la, la. And Christmas time, and I thanked him because I've got a Wallabies wet weather gear of his. My son just turned up Christmas Day, no present. He'd been to Fraser's 2 days earlier. Fraser unloaded a heap of his World Cup gear to my son Harry, and Harry's turned up and said, "Here, Dad, here's your present."
You
a Wallaby wet weather top. That's great.
Oh, that's a shocker, mate.
Yeah, absolute shocker.
I tell you what they do, the kids as well, mate.
Fraser's a beauty.
This is it. So, I had a birthday recently, my kids, they gave me a present, but they don't wrap it or anything, do they? It's not even in a box, mate. Dad, here it is. It's just like they've just taken it out of Kmart and there it is.
here's the other one. Usually this is what I get, is it's on its way. I ordered it online. It'll be here soon.
Oh.
And then they just, 5 days later, you've forgotten all about it and it never arrives. Great rubbish story.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. That's our podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to listen to the entire show, 1 till 4, Monday to Friday, download the Platform app, and via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to whatever shows over however many weeks at your leisure, at your listening pleasure. Platform Plus. First thing to do, though, is download the Platform app.
Devlin. You better believe it. The Platform.